lower body, okay? What that means is that once I set everything, the guillotine's ready to be finished, the next step is to connect your lower body to them. And it's not rocket science. There's a few different connections you can aim for. The main focus that you want to think about when you're looking to connect them is to decrease the distance of your hips and theirs, okay? So all I'm doing is when I get to, and I set my guillotine, just pretend my guillotine is set here. Like, there's no reason for me to hold Angel in the guillotine while I explain to you guys leg position for Angel. All I'm going to do here is that once I set my guillotine's ready to go. I'm looking to connect my leg in a variety of different ways. A very standard form of connection and a very robust form of connection is a shin guard, where I take my shin, I mold my shin to Angel's shin just like so. Once I mold my shin to his hip, I take my second leg and I connect my second leg over the top. From here, I use the back heeling of my leg to lift my hips and engage my hips, okay? In addition, the nice thing about shin guard is that a shin guard stops your opponent from clearing your legs out to my right. So if the Angel tries to clear my legs to my right, it's very difficult. The shin does a good job of keeping him there. Shin guard is great. Closed guard is even better. Closed guard is even stronger, okay? If you're interested in acquiring a closed guard, how would you do that? A lot of different ways you could go about doing that, but one of the most practical is, again, I'm not going to put Angel in a guillotine because there's no need for me to put him in a guillotine right now when I'm showing you leg position. What I would do is that once I acquire the guillotine, pretend I have my guillotine grip in right now, I would stand and I would circle and rotate. Off that circle and rotate, I put my foot on the forehead as I sit through my guillotine, and I would lock my legs. Let's look at the other angle of that, Angel. I'm here. Pretend I have my guillotine already set. I would stand. Off that stand, I pull to create waist exposure. On that waist exposure, I shift my weight over my right leg. So I create a light left leg. With that light left leg, I touch, sit, and look. And now there's my finish. If you cannot get to a closed guard, if you cannot lock around his waist, locking around one leg is completely fine. What I will do is I'll pull my opponent into a half guard. And now with the half guard, you're still connecting to them. So when they go to move their hips around, it can be very challenging. And with the half guard, you can also finish your opponent, okay? These are different variations and different methods I can use to connect my legs to his lower body. What do they all have in common? What they all have in common is that I'm looking to close the distance of my hips and his. I want my hips as close to the center of Angel's body as possible. That's why out of all of those, closed guard is the strongest because it gets your hips the closest, okay? However, the shin guard and the half guard are also excellent options, okay? Now, what will you do? How will you connect your opponent if you cannot connect your legs to theirs? Typically, this happens. The reason I wouldn't be able to connect my legs to Angel's is because there's some sort of obstacle in my way. Sometimes that can be the arm, okay? That when I go in for, say my example, my connection, Angel's arm doesn't, say for example, wrap around my leg. So if Angel grabs me, now there's nothing between me and Angel's hips. But if Angel keeps his arm down, even if I have a good bite, there's an obstacle between me and his hips. So when I try to sit and connect to Angel's hips, his arm's in the way, right? Angel, you can put your arm right here. Put it on the mat, like over underpassing. Go ahead, put this one over here. Yeah, exactly. His arm is in the way. And like, I'm trying to connect his hips with power, but his arm is stopping me from being able to connect. Okay? When this happens, if you feel like the arm is in the way, just wrap up the arm. Okay? Gordon actually taught me this, so I give credit to Gordon. What we're going to do is I acquire my guillotine. If I feel like his arm is stopping me from connecting to his hips, I will pull his arm and hook over his arm. So that once I hook over his arm, now from here I will simply sit and just strangle him with his arm between my legs. Okay? And this is, especially with a high wrist, this is sufficient connection to your opponent's shoulder to be able to strangle him and make him go unconscious. Okay? Now, the last note I want to make is a note on the head. Okay? This is one of the biggest, absolute biggest mistakes I see people make when it comes to trying to finish guillotines. Okay? For some reason, when people go to connect with their legs, their head does this. They get to guillotine. It might be the best bite on planet Earth. As soon as their legs go to connect, watch my head. It does this. And it leans back like this. It's like they're trying so much for hip extension that their head goes back and away. When you do this, number one, you are loosening the grip on your partner. High hands make for a very tight guillotine. High hands, low head. Low hands, high head make for a much looser guillotine because the circumference inside my arms is increasing, not decreasing. I want very little circumference, very little hole. If I make a very big hole, obviously a big hole is much looser. And it's going to allow him to do things like defend. It's going to allow him to do things like pop his head. Yeah, you see that happen all the time in MMA, right? Guys going for the finish, their head comes all the way back here. They're trying to bridge, and the guy's head pops out. Well, duh. It's because you're taking your arms away from your head, and you're making a larger hole that your opponent can defend with and escape from, okay? Always remember this. This is what I always tell my students. Do not look at your guillotine. Feel your guillotine. Let me say that one more time because it's very important. Don't look at your guillotine. Feel your guillotine. Okay? So here's what I do. I tell my students there's no reason at any point in time to take your head, your ear off his body and do this. You start looking. There's no reason to do that. My ear touches and it stays the whole time. And I feel the back of his back. His back, that's redundant, the back of his back. I feel his back on my ear and it just stays there the whole time. So as I finish, watch, when I go to connect, my ear stays on his back the whole time. It doesn't move. It connects and it finishes here. And it stays there the whole time. What that does is that it secures a very tight connection to your partner.